Welcome to the Jamodi podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. What are things that makes PGC different?
Obviously, from having directed Point Guard College camps, you're familiar with our acronym SHAPE, and I won't dive in to any coaches listening. If you haven't been to a PGC session as an observing coach, we unpack SHAPE and how you can pack in these with our unique spelling, SCHAPE, these 6 leadership ingredients into everything you do to build a championship culture and to create championship performance. I want to unpack those. Coaches, if you haven't joined us, be our guest at one of our 100+ camps across the country this summer. But I'll summarize it in something I shared with our staff. Every month we hop on a staff-wide call, all 40+ of our staff, and we jump on and I do some teaching at the end of the call. We call it the PGC way. And I was summarizing all of our core values of the SHAPE acronym into just 2. And so I think our 2 pillars, all of SHAPE, these wonderful leadership principles, can be summarized in care and excellence. Care and excellence. And one of the things PGC founder Dick DiVenzio talked about a lot through all of his books, through all of his teachings, was care. Pouring yourself into everything you do, whatever is in front of you, whatever situation you're in, whatever you're working on, making it whoever you're speaking with, making it or them the most important thing in your world in that moment, where you pour all of your care into it and where you do it with excellence to the best of your abilities, continually striving to make it better. Dick teaches in the book Stuff Good Players Should Know the 87% effort, knowing that we talk about giving 100%, 110%. He said over in Asia, there are coaches who have figured out how to get 500% effort out of their players. I love that. And he said, what he's concluded is nobody ever gives more than 87% effort. And if you can embrace the 87% effort mentality, then you can take on the approach that I'm never fully giving it all. But I'm going to scratch and claw and do everything possible to try and get 1 or 2 extra ounces or percentage points of effort, striving to get up to 90%, but knowing you probably never come close. And so at PGC, 2 of our pillars, care and excellence, we're going to pour ourselves into everything that we do with as much care and with as much love, with as much joy and as much energy and spirit as we possibly can. And we're going to attempt to do things with excellence, knowing we never actually get there. We're playing the game to infinity because we'll never arrive. We're always striving to give 1 or 2 percentage points more of effort to grow and get better.
I love the SHAPE acronym. I love the words. I love the culture, the idea behind it. I've had a few coaches on here when we're talking about culture, building culture. One of the important things is helping players get past just words that you put on your wall in the locker room or posters that have great quotes, but there's no connection, no meaning to them. What's your advice on coaches? How can they build a culture with their team? Let's just say they want to take SHAPE, because it does make so much sense for everything that we do every day to live that way. But how do we take that or any culture we're trying to build and get more ownership from our players to where they are co-creators, co-owners of that culture, not just me. Here's your coach. Here's the 4 sheets of culture that we have. Learn it, get it, live it. Let's go.
Yeah. It's a good question. And back 7 or 8 years ago, I was wrestling through that with my own teams, my high school teams, the AU teams that I was coaching. And what we ended up creating was a preseason retreat after we had selected the team. And we just got away for a couple hours in my basement with some pizza, watching a game. And then we pulled away from the game for half an hour, 45 minutes. And I came up with just 3 or 4 questions to ask the players that helped to co-create our culture and standards. Obviously, I knew where I wanted us to be, but I didn't just want it to be about where I wanted us to be.
Yeah.
Where did we collectively want to be in terms of who we wanted to be and how we wanted to show up every single day, and what environments they had been in, or even teams that had helped to create a really special experience. And when they thought of really special teams and really special experiences, what went into that? So I actually did that for several years. And then I started teaching it at our PGC coaching clinics. And then I turned it, this past fall, I turned it into a preseason team retreat online. So we turned it into a 1-hour video series that a coach can do. I facilitate the whole thing. A coach just hits pause. I give the exercise. They hit play. And we've had hundreds of coaches across all different sports use it, and it's available in our PGC coaching membership. So I'm not even sure if you knew about that, but
I didn't. That's so good though, and because I'm somebody that I need that, because I'm very comfortable with learning. And all the words are great. Like for Jamodi, which I kind of forced that onto our players here at Faith: joy, attitude, motivation, opportunity, discipline, impact. Like those are all great words. And to me, just like shape, it has a really nice flow to what your life could look like if you live by that, what each day could look like if you live by that, like that. But half of them don't care. Half of them, they could care less about your money. They don't think about those words. It doesn't guide them through the day. It doesn't, and so even a program where I feel like we've got a decent culture here, I find myself driving it 90-10, like 90% it's me forcing it, 10%, and I want to get it to where it's that 50-50 split, or even where they're more involved in taking it. So I think that's huge.
Yeah. And your language and words, which are beautiful for Jamodi and the acronym, maybe finding out from them, what's important to them before you even introduce that framing, because your core values as a coach, just like within PGC, we don't change it every year based on who's working for us. There are core values. We'll help everybody speak into our standards, but our core values are going to stay the same. And so how do you align and get players on side with your core values? Finding out what's important to them and what a special environment would look like. What would they feel great about being a part of? And what that will lead to is a lot of those special character qualities that you just mentioned.
That's good.
So that'll, I think, help connect the dots for them.
I've thought about, like, what is the difference between having an acronym or words that create your pillars, or a list of standards. So kind of going back to Coach K's book, The Gold Standard, where he has, these incredible leaders and NBA players, and they just go through like, how are we going to live? What do we want this thing to look like? And they come up with this list of 12 to 15 things that are the gold standards of their program. The beauty I see in that is the fact that it can change from year to year. But then one difference between a high school program, especially if it's a coach that wants to stay for a long time, like you and PGC, is directors, basket instructors, employees can come and go, but a high school coach hopefully will stay and remain. So you still have to have the overall flow and lane that you want it to go down, but maybe those standards can be different from year to year.
Yeah. And for example, standards, you may keep extraordinarily high standards, but in our preseason retreat, we have the players help to identify what does a great locker room look like and feel like for you guys. And one year with my JV boys that I was coaching, when I was coaching my son's JV boys team, they came up with no trash left around, which made sense. I liked that. Then they had no whipping others with towels. I didn't even know players were whipping each other's with towels,
Wow.
when
Yeah.
they got out of the shower. But for them, it was a matter of respect. And so I thought we were going to have things like, keep the locker room really neat, make sure uniforms aren't in, no whipping towel. That was important to them. And I realized, wow, that's a great standard then, because we want respect. We want guys to feel good about each other, especially in the locker room. And so those are the types of standards that might flex or be slightly different. I was okay with not focusing on other things in the locker room that year, to focus on trash and to focus on nobody whipping each other with towels.
Well, what a great point, though. Like, how many things are happening in our program that we don't know? And if you're not staying present within your program and having meetings, scheduled meetings to stay ahead of issues that could come up, you're only going to be learning about things when it's already too late to really do anything or change it. And you're just going to be cleaning up or mopping up at that point. Let me ask you this about the team that you coached. I know that what you guys teach at PGC, I don't say what we teach, because I still feel like I'm a part of the family.
You never leave the PGC.
You never leave the so
you might not be working in the PGC team, but you're always a part of the
always.
PGC
I'm
family.
always going to be a grad for sure. So what we teach does translate. Like, it actually does really work, because there are some books you can read, things you can watch or hear about, that sometimes when you're actually in it, when you're in the trenches, they just seem like pie in the sky ideals that really won't ever work or translate. I don't believe that about PGC, but what were some of the struggles that you realized, that were there at that JV level, that maybe not necessarily surprised you, but you just thought with what it would just go smoother and run better?
Yeah, unquestionably, the players' level of focus. Their level of focus was just shockingly low. Just
hey, look over here.
Exactly. And had to help them acclimatize to higher standards of what it meant for, at that time we had hour and 20-minute practices, and how to stay locked in. And I realized I needed to adjust. I couldn't just try and get them to meet me where I was at. I had to meet them where they were at, part of that humility piece. So I realized I couldn't talk for 10 minutes straight and expect them to still be dialed in. I needed to change things to bite-sized pieces. I couldn't give them 3 pieces of 3 things to do. I needed to give them 1. Let's do this, and this is the focus. Let's focus on this alone. So I had to adjust, and I had to meet them where they were at in order to take them to where they could go.
PGC helped me with that a ton. And coaches, like you already mentioned, if you've never observed a session, you need to go do that. A shooting course, one of the summer sessions, it's one of the most transformational things that you can do. I used to give 8 different directions per drill, and then after being with PGC, realized they probably weren't doing any of them right. So the ability to scale it back and find out what is the main thing of what you're trying to teach, I think that's huge.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one I certainly get wrong as a coach, that I try and give too many instructions and too much information. You think about pregame, you think about halftime, think about post-game, and all the things we try and tell our players. At the end of a game, they've got nothing left in the tank emotionally, mentally, physically, and we're trying to tell them the 4 different things that went wrong. Save it for the next day. Right time, right place, right amount of information. It's certainly an area I had to grow in a lot as a coach.
Going back to the focus piece that you said, where they, you were amazed at how they struggled with that. So down here in Texas, where football is king, many of us, football's first, and then it bleeds over into basketball season. We're already rolling for a month and a half or so, and football players come in. and this isn't, I'm not, it's not shots fired towards any specific football coach or pro, but I've just seen, maybe because of who I've learned from, that our standards are different in basketball, and the way that we stand, the way we learn, the way we speak, the way we celebrate, and maybe just the nature of their practices and how much they spend 3 hours. So there's a lot of downtime and that, but these players come in and there seems to be a culture shock when they first come over. And I don't know if I've always been good. I may have been more of the Bill Belichick, you become us, we don't become you. Part of me loves that mentality, but then, like you're saying, how can I help them come into it where it's not, even I've been guilty of saying, hey, the football guys are here, or in referring to them as, hey, football guys, throughout the year instead of part of our team. What are some ways that we can bring guys in late to the program and get them sped up?
I think first and foremost, a conversation with them. And with them as a group or individually, and depending on how many you have, to talk about, here's where we're at, here's where we're going, and want to bring you up to speed as quickly as possible. Here's some of the standards we've implemented or that we have, and having just a conversation. What questions do you have? Where do you see the struggles being for you guys in this? And how can I best support you as we get you up to speed with everything we've done and with our culture and standards? So they know right from the get-go that you're with them. You've got their back and you're with them. And then I think having that same conversation with the whole team. Hey guys, for those of you who have been around for a while, you know how we've been operating and what we've been doing. And these guys are now finally with us. But let's talk about how we can do this really, really well. How can you be beside them to help them? How can you support them? So I think those two conversations would just be two really meaningful conversations that could get everybody aligned and on the same page.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.